Welcome everybody to the first of our BETT talks here with Good Future Foundation and the wonderful Dina Foster as well from Educate Ventures. Dina, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited. It's the start of BETT. It's a great opportunity to see what's happening and connect with lots of people doing interesting stuff in the world of ed tech and education.
Absolutely. I mean, the doors have just opened. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, so I'm imagining that we'll get sort of flooded in the space that we're in, but very, very excited and grateful to have you with us to talk about your work, particularly around the coalition at Educate Ventures and to think through some of the other projects that you and the team are involved with. Maybe to kick us off, could you tell us a bit about what Educate Ventures is and then how you fit within the organization and the work you're doing?
Okay, so Educate Ventures Research is a consultancy that has been set up by Professor Rose Luckin, who has decades of experience in AI, particularly in education. So she jokes a lot about the fact that she was thinking about a lot of the questions school leaders are grappling with at the moment many, many years ago. And what we do is we sort of work in the intersection between what's happening in the world of technology with development of technologies, particularly AI, what's happening in the world of research, trying to draw on as much academic information as we can to inform our practice. And then crucially, the third corner of Rose's golden triangle is what's happening in schools. So we try and really help to support work happening at the coalface in schools. And in particular, I head up our coalition work, which supports specifically school leaders.
And when it comes to the coalition itself, how do you see, what is the value proposition, I guess? I mean, there are so many opportunities and ways for schools to engage with AI at this point. Why is the coalition special?
I think it's exactly that, Daniel, to be honest. There are so many opportunities, and that's quite tough to navigate, actually. You're almost overwhelmed by choice and opportunity, and there's a real feel of not wanting to be left behind. We've noticed from the schools we've spoken to that there's definitely an understanding that AI in education is something to be considered, to be taken seriously. It's going to very much form part of the future of education, but trying to work out how to get on board in a sensible and ethical and appropriate way is really quite challenging. And because of the amount of choice out there, there's tons of resources and opportunities that we use the phrase to be the bandwidth. So my background's in school leadership, so I know what it's like to be very busy spinning plates. And of course, there's so many different priorities that schools are having to consider at the moment, and technology is actually only one of them. And even though we can all be very evangelical about how tech can offer solutions to help tackle some of those really challenging problems in education, we have to remember that school leaders are busy actually doing that day to day. And whilst with the best will in the world, they'd love to be super skilled and informed about best AI practice, that's not very practical in real terms. So what we try and do through the coalition is bring together forward-thinking leaders who are curious, who are interested in finding out how to navigate AI in education. And we try and be that bandwidth for them. So whether that's condensing latest reports and findings, providing an opportunity for sharing of good practice, linking up with fantastic people like you guys at Good Futures, and pointing people in the direction of frameworks and different resources that we sort of, it's almost as if have been through a vetting process, that we've used our expertise to say, this is worth your time, let's point you in this direction or that direction, to try and cut away some of the hype and organise some of the noise for people. Plus there's our research work, which I know we'll talk about in a moment.
But I suppose even with the frameworks and the research, there's still a lot to cut through, right? There are some fantastic organizations doing some brilliant things in this space. And yet it's still far too much for a leader in a school or a head of a department or a teacher to even consider, okay, which one's going to be the best one for me? How do I begin to incorporate some of that in day-to-day practice? How does the coalition help people to navigate and find out what's right for them?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, we have that initial, we only present something that we think is good quality. So something like the AI quality mark, for example, is something that we support. However, I think that's where getting like-minded people in the same room, we have digital learning launches once a half term, and leaders can sit there desperately trying to grab a sandwich and join us online, and they actually hear from one another. And whilst we know that there's sort of all sorts of considerations when we talk about how robust evidence is, we know that schools rely very heavily on maybe softer anecdotal evidence from colleagues. And so it's much more powerful to get leaders together where one can say, do you know what, we used this and it was really fantastic. This audit tool worked really well for us. Using this to shape our priorities really helped us in our context. So I think really providing the opportunity for people to share their own experiences with different frameworks allows their sort of the colleagues to pick and choose what resonates with them.
So from what I understand, particularly as far as schools are concerned, there are groups of schools, for example, that consider themselves to be quite far ahead in this process in terms of the number of tools that they're adopting. And these are the things that they might be shouting about, right? We've adopted X, Y, and Z. We're advanced when it comes to using AI in an educational setting. Is that the right message to be listening to?
Well, to be fair, no. In a nutshell, it's not. But it's really interesting, actually, to have those schools in the room as well, because we can ask some challenging questions around safety, around responsible use, around ethical use of AI, around appropriate safeguards, and not just for teachers, but for all stakeholders within that school ecosystem. And I think that's where different contexts can learn from one another. And whilst it's all well and good to be saying, oh, this is fantastic, we're using this tool and it's saving us X number of hours a week, actually, when you get a bunch of school leaders together who all share that big word accountability for the decisions that are being taken in the school, it's interesting how those aren't the voices that are particularly listened to. People are much more concerned with how did you do this safely? What about the data? What protections did you put in place? What permissions did you need? What challenges did you find? And actually, some of our most useful conversations are around barriers and how to overcome obstacles.
For leaders, though, that's a different conversation to teachers, right? We found a lot in our research that, for example, there might be a policy in place around what tools might be available, what you might be able to use, and how you can maximize efficiency tends to be a really big pull for a lot of teachers, saving time on different things. But then schools might have an overriding policy because they have considered the data implications or the intellectual property implications. How do teachers navigate that space? Because what we're seeing is a lot of almost clandestine use or shadow use of AI. How does that look within the coalition, and how do you help support the teachers as well as the leaders?
Yeah, it's challenging. I think actually the key is leadership. And so where we have policies in place, they need to be living and breathing and dynamic, not just sort of tick box, oh, we've got that, stick it on the website, we're covered. It's not about covering your backside. It's about actually tailoring your approach to balance both the risks, but also leverage potential benefits. And I think really we see the strongest impact, the greatest levels of confidence and sort of ethical, purposeful use of AI, where there is very specific leadership of AI. And it's not just, oh, yeah, here we go, we've got a policy and we've signed up to this tech company, so that's what we will do now, and then it gets forgotten about. So rather than AI being siloed, I think it's about really making sure that AI literacy is something that's being embedded across the school with all stakeholders. And maybe not all stakeholders are engaged, but there's at least a plan for that. And that's something that's continuously evaluated and revisited.
And so being the bandwidth in that conversation, is that something that schools are happy to offload to you? And when they do, how do you make sure that they get the professional development and support they need?
Well, I'd start by saying I wouldn't say we have all the answers. I'd say we're helping schools to find the answers.
Okay.
And that's actually where some of the research work comes into it, because we're actually supporting a number of different research strands. So we have leaders in school leading others who are all conducting their own use cases or pilot projects that fall under the umbrellas of these different research strands. So, for example, we have research and projects running into AI and its use for SEND, AI and where the digital divide might be impacted by it, both positively and negatively, AI and data, AI and pedagogy. And so we've got these different themes, if you like, under which we're encouraging schools to undertake work that meets their needs. And of course, it is about only really ever using AI just to address something you want to address anyway, not tokenistic use of AI. And so actually we're not trying to say, oh, this is how you should do it, but more support schools to find out how they ought to do it and learn the lessons. And then, crucially, those lessons, positive and negative, can be disseminated out to the rest of the community of the coalition.
So would you say you've got sort of lighthouse examples or particular case studies of schools that are really doing this well? I'm not asking you to name, of course, but is that happening already?
It is happening already. We started our most recent run of projects in September. So we're in a data collection phase at the moment. And what we're trying to do is support with the academic side of things. So where we've got a school saying, okay, we're going to invest in one-to-one devices, but we're not just stopping there. We're going to think about how AI might be used on those devices by teaching assistants, for example. Then we're supporting with whatever research we can in terms of shaping the decision-making around those. And then, yes, as data is being collected, we're working to draw out findings for both those individual projects, but then also as a strand where there are a number of different projects, we can pull the headline detail out of that to give people those concrete examples of research found in this context, this sort of impact with this sort of tool for this sort of learn. So we're really trying to identify clear learning that is evidence backed from these research projects that then people can take and consider the extent to which it can be generalized to their own context or not.
So what does that experience look like for a school that's interested in this space? They want to learn more, they want to get involved. How do they do that and what does it cost them?
Okay, so firstly, it's free, so it costs them nothing other than, of course, the most valuable thing of all, which is time. And interestingly, time and permissions have been identified as two real barriers to schools embracing AI implementation. Excuse me. So they just need to go to the Shape the Future Leaders Coalition website, stick it in a search engine. I'm sure it will come up. And essentially, just fill in your details. You'd be invited along to the next events that we have. We have digital events, we have in-person events. So in a moment, I'm off to chair a round table with 35 of our school leaders to discuss exactly some of those research strands and crucially what AI and assessment might look like. So we'll have rolling opportunities for people to be involved, and you needn't feel you have to undertake a research project or do you want to just, I use the word lurk. It's absolutely fine to come along and lurk in the coalition, just listen and see what's going on. And when you feel confident, when you want a hand, whether it be conducting an audit, putting together a policy, maybe starting to sort of gather evidence for your AI quality mark, then that's a great environment to do it that would be really well supported by genuine, and this is the beauty of Rose Luckin, genuine experts in the field of AI and education.
And is this open to schools overseas as well as in the UK?
So at the moment we have members within the coalition that are from international schools, and they tend to have more of an observing role because the work we're doing at the moment is very much UK centred.
Okay.
However, there are plans afoot for international coalition as well to run alongside. So it's a very inclusive bunch. And there's definitely something for everyone. It's a very valuable resource to anyone who wants to be involved.
So we're sitting in the largest EdTech event in the world right now. You mentioned you've got a roundtable of 35 school representatives happening a little bit later on as well. What sort of guidance might you offer school leaders, digital leads, folks who are perhaps here for the first time, where it's a bombardment of the senses, really, isn't it? Where there's an AI solution for wherever you want to put your water down or go to the loo, there's an AI solution for it. How do you begin to think about what might work well for your school when you're in a space like this?
I think it's that to begin by thinking. Actually, don't be dazzled by the lights. Professor Luckin talks about learning fast and acting more slowly. And I think it is that. If we want to try and do this properly, which of course as educators we want to, we have the most precious things in the world in our hands, which is the future of generations. We need to do this properly. So in order to do that, we need to draw on all the information we can. We need to try and build up a really good critical mindset around the use of AI, so it's purposeful and ethical, and that we're making the right decisions for our context. So I would say just take a breath have a look around, but actually try and center your work in a robust framework, the support from a well-established group. Really make sure you've got something to hang your AI decision making on, rather than just in the wind.
And does the roundtable form a part of that? I'd love to know more about what you're doing today.
Yes, so we're again, it's very much echoing what the coalition is about. We've got a session from OCR who'll be talking to us about the future of AI and assessment, and then on to broader discussions around AI for SEND and the digital divide and AI and pedagogy, both a chance to share what is happening at the moment. So it's acting almost as a focus group for some of those research projects that are going on. We've got some project leaders in the room. So people have a chance to exchange ideas, but also do some blue sky thinking. Because if we can share our aims or our problems that we're trying to solve, there could well be someone else in the room that has the solution for that.
Dina, wish you very best of luck with that today. Thank you so very much indeed for stopping by Good Future Foundation's booth at BETT, our first ever talk at BETT as an organisation. So I'm very grateful for you being here and for your time and insight. Wish you all the best for the rest of the event.
May I just say one thing? We want to thank you very much for the support you offer to the coalition. And I do say, and I mean this genuinely, and there's not everything is always genuine in the world of AI and education, but you guys really are good guys. And I think it's so refreshing to see people trying to support schools for the right reasons and nothing beyond that. So thank you for your support.
Appreciate that, Dina. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you with our next session soon.